Hey, entrepreneurial rock stars. I'm so excited to introduce you to Joanna Track. She runs a company called The Bullet. That is one of many companies that she has built from the ground up and sold. And not only that, she is on the advisory council for women of influence. So this woman knows a thing or two about entrepreneurship. I'm so excited for you to be able to meet her because so many of us have asked me the question, and I've only built one business and I'm still building it. I wanted you to be able to hear from Joanna about what are some of the secrets of knowing you have a good idea, and because you have done that, Joanna, multiple times. What is really at the root of being able to know that you've got something there and that you've got to keep hustling to build it?
Well, I think, what's interesting, what I've seen, especially these days where we all see all the media about the unicorn businesses, the ones that go to 1 billion and, whatever amount of money that they're making. And I think it has set an unrealistic expectation that if you start a business, then it has to go that way. And and then I think that overwhelms people. So if you have a great idea and you say to yourself, well, it's great, but it's not going to be like that.
Right.
It becomes an all or nothing. And so I say, you got to put those Facebooks of the world, Instagrams, whatever, put it on a shelf and don't compare yourselves to that. You got to really think about growing organically. You have a product or a service or whatever your offering is. You do it sort of in the concentric circles, like gain a following and then keep growing and then keep growing, and set your expectations. Like, you do want to strive to grow, but if you say to yourself, okay, I want to go from X to Y, I want to go from, investing money this year to breaking even next year to increasing by 5% the year after. Like, it doesn't have to be this astronomical growth. And then that way, if you're onto something because you've kind of baby stepped into it instead of jumping off a cliff. I mean, becoming an entrepreneur is jumping off a cliff. No matter what, you have to take a risk. You can't be, you can't sort of move and not move.
Right.
So you have to, but that doesn't mean you have to throw all, caution to the wind. You can take, very calculated risks.
Right. And so a couple of things that you just shared that I think would be really valuable for just to emphasize is that in addition to the mindset around it's going to take time, it's going to take patience. There is such a small margin of businesses that go to that $1 million or $1 billion, but certainly don't do that overnight. In fact, anyone who's interested in really challenging this unicorn philosophy, why don't you listen to a podcast called Masters of Scale by the founder of LinkedIn, because he interviews founders of Twitter and all these, what we think are unicorn companies, and they'll tell you how many failed companies or how long that overnight success story.
Yeah, well, one of those guys, I think it might have been him, they talk about the overnight success that took 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. There is no such thing as an overnight success.
And that's where your advice around set small, manageable goals for yourself and actually monitor it over time. I think that's what a lot of us solopreneurs or small business owners don't do, is we just are so hopeful that we'll make any money or we'll get some clients. It's like, great, that's better. But then now that becomes the new norm and you don't measure and celebrate beyond that. So by being able to measure it, not only do you stay more on track, but also you can acknowledge and you have points of acknowledgement, and you also know when to hustle. Because if you're not meeting it,
right,
what do I need to do to meet it? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Things have to be quantifiable one way or the other, or else you're just flailing around without a destination.
And then we don't get that dopamine hit that we need, that success hormone that says, okay, you've had an accomplishment. I can remember about 6 months into starting my business feeling very lonely. Here's the extrovert working by herself in her walkout basement, I didn't plan to start this business even a year before that, but here I am. I had to start this act of recognizing one thing every single day. And I decided to make it actually physically write it down and put it on frog cards, because my brand is Frog, Forever Recognize Others' Greatness. And I had to look at it, because on days where I felt like my business is terrible, what did I do? There's no way I'm going to make it. I could look at my own handwriting and it's like, well, I wrote those. So obviously I felt that way one day. And then you start reading them all and you go, okay, maybe I'm not that bad and maybe I can make this work. I mean, do you have any strategies that you use to stay focused and positive on where you're, even if you aren't growing as fast or something, you know, bloopers that happen or struggles that happen in everybody's business, even successful ones? How do you manage that?
I mean, I'd say very similar to you. Last year, for example, was a challenging year. I mean, we're still very much in startup mode. And
Yes.
I felt like the whole year was just about us coming up against challenges. And my team got together in December and we were having a strategy session, a plan for 2019. And the night before, I was kind of thinking about that. And I said, you know what? We need to kick this off with a different frame of mind. And so we came into the room that morning and I said, let's spend the first 15 minutes making a list of all the amazing things we did this year. And actually, I mean, you can't see it where I am right now, but it's on our wall in the office.
I love that you kept it up too. That's awesome.
Yeah. and I try to do that all the time because we all do it. Like we get so focused on all the bad things that happen and then a good thing happens and we're like, oh yeah, whatever. And then you get stuck on all the bad things. So I try to give each one equal weight.
I love that. I love that. And keeping it in your environment means that it's a part of your world and you're more likely probably in day-to-day conversations focus on what's working as opposed to being very problem-centric, which we all have to address challenges that come up. But if we're problem obsessed, we're not solution focused. So I love how you brought in the affirmation and the evidence of what's working as part of your world so that it influences the conversations and how you think about your business and therefore take action in your business. Yeah.
Well, exactly. And not even to feel like a downer. I actually go into things now. I think also 4 businesses later, the exact same problem that would have happened to me in my first business would have thrown me into a total tizzy. And now the exact same problem with the exact same severity could be happening, but I can almost look at it from above and be like, this is happening. And you got through it last time, you're going to get through it this time. So it's same problem. It's just a different perspective.
Yeah. And so if you could recommend, if you could shorten the learning curve and the adoption curve for people to do that. So let's say they want to do that in business 1 as opposed to business 4. What would you suggest? What have you learned along the way to be able to hover above and to be able to do that?
Well, 2 things. I think if you have to assume things will happen. Bad stuff is going to happen. Now, you shouldn't wake up every day like hiding under the pillow that something's bad. But if you actually expect that stuff's going to happen, then you, instead of worrying, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? You say to yourself, something's going to happen. So instead of expending all that energy, I'm just going to deal with it when it happens.
Yes.
So, so that's part 1. And part 2, even though it sounds maybe cliche or corny, things always work out in the end. Like whatever the problem is, and I think also because I've been to the lowest of the low where a business failed miserably, that I'm still here. Now I've launched 2 businesses since then. And, I have scars, but I'm here to, live to tell.
I love it. And I love how you framed that business that didn't work as still a helpful anchor in your life, as opposed to that fear-based mentality of, oh my God, I can't get back there. And, there's so much to write the book that's coming out this fall, which is called The Flip Side of Failure, How to Harness and Recognize Greatness in Work and Life. That's exactly what so many people shared, whether it be successful entrepreneurs like you, 3M scholars, Olympians, Everest climbers, world record holders. They all had this very different relationship with failure, including expected. It's going to happen. So don't let it be your demise. And how you react to it, you can deflate, you can mitigate the damage, or you can elevate. And I just really hear through what you're sharing is you're always in that, okay, let's mitigate it for now. And how do we learn from it? How do we elevate from it? Yeah. And in a previous vlog that we're going to link for folks, we just did one on recognition. I suspect the way in which you work with your people have a lot to do with that. you elevate together as opposed to just be on your shoulders.
Exactly.
But what is the most important suggestion you can give to the folks who are watching this when they feel really at a low point, when they doubt, can I make this work? Am I actually an entrepreneur? Am I cut out for this? Their spouse or their kids are giving them a hard time. What would be your best advice to them if they're going through that?
It's tough because I actually have a good friend who launched a business a couple years ago, and she kept asking me, like, when do I know when I should give up? Because she was really struggling. And I said, like, it's not a really definitive answer. I said, you'll know when you've reached the end. So, and ultimately she did reach the end, but it was probably a year later than she thought, like, she could go. And so, this is also where what we were talking about before, but setting goals and having milestones and stuff is important, because that can root you back. Like, that can take you out of the emotion and root you back in reality. So, are you just not hitting any of those milestones? Is this just not taking traction? Because when we create a product, it's like having a baby, and we're very emotionally attached to it. So that's why you need those things to ground you into having a framework or a benchmark to work against, so that you can, as much as possible, remove the emotion and make pragmatic decisions. And also, like I said to my friend at the time, I said, you're done when you're out of energy. Like, if you can't, if you can't go any further, then that's,
if you don't like your business, if you wake up in the morning going, oh, I can't possibly spend the day doing this. Yeah. What you were sharing around, and I think we could do things that help counteract that if we sort of, some of the things that we've talked about, when we're not doing those things, those resourceful, healthy things, we probably get faster that depleted point. So it's a both and thing, that yes, sometimes it's the sign of the end of the business, but it also may be a sign that we need to go back a few steps, maybe put in some healthy
reframe, look at a different strategy.
Yeah.
Actually, a mentor friend of mine, a while ago, I was having, not second thoughts, but I was in a slump with the bullet. And he said, whatever you do, set a deadline for yourself. Like, if you don't hit certain targets by X, he said, and then add 3 months. And I was like, okay. He said, because everything takes longer than we all expect. So if you have an impulsive deadline, like, you have to give it some leeway. And I thought that really helpful advice.
It's funny, that was what my 4th year thesis was in my psychology degree. It is true. We have no capacity as human beings to evaluate time effectively. So that's really, really good advice. And really, in the grand scheme of our lives, what's an extra 3 months?
Right.
Especially when you're quantifying data and you're, in that extra 3 months, you think my spouse or my kids or my business partner, whoever's really going to put the pressure on, make your numbers really transparent to them during that time. My kids ask me, my husband asked me, so how are the numbers doing? Because I study my numbers every single month. I can tell them, how are the bookings going? How is the new product coming along? They will ask me, what 15 and 13-year-old are actually truly interested. Really, it's just part of our conversation that, yes, it's my business, but it's our business. I'm a family-centered entrepreneur. I know you are too. You've got a beautiful child. So, this is, invite your family into your business so that it's not like them against the business. It's that
all in it together.
Business, right, exactly. And let them help you in your success. And if you're struggling, like, ask for help. Or this other, one of my favorite mentors' advice was, never be the smartest one in the room. If you're always the one giving out advice or trying to help people or be of service, then where do you feed your business and where do you feed your knowledge and stuff? So and I was realizing I was always trying to serve and help other people. And I don't know if you've also adopted that philosophy as well in the course of your business, is always raising the bar and to be in a smarter room. And and if you have, what happens as a result of that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think part of why I've been a serial entrepreneur and keep starting new ones is because I like to go back to the beginning and learn stuff. Like when I feel tapped out that I'm not learning or growing, then it's time for a new challenge. And so it's the same idea. Like if I feel like I've become the smartest person in the room, then I like to go back to being the least smartest person in the room.
And that takes a real ego check, doesn't it? That takes being confident in yourself, and or even if we're not confident, so to speak, but it's just that inner knowing that we can get through this. And that's one of the reasons why I just so appreciate your time together, Joanna, is that I know that the people watching this are really going to value hearing you share the successful business right through to the one that didn't work out so well, and how you've learned over time so many of these things. I mean, I think we all get stronger when we speak with other people who have walked in our shoes well before us, have done things differently, who have lived really courageously and bravely, and you have done all those things. And that's why I'm so incredibly grateful for your time together. And also, I just frankly love your product. I love that people can get really bite-sized, fun, pithy news stories and stay up on things and be current in life every day in just like under 7 minutes. So we'll make sure to link in for those busy business owners. Yeah, no problem. It's my pleasure. Yeah. And any last piece of advice that you have for the folks who are on the line today, who are really kind of more in the beginning phases of their business?
You only live once. What's the worst that can happen, right? The friend that I mentioned before, I said to her, even no matter what happens, you're going to learn so much that you're going to be richer for it. And she still says to me today that it was a life-changing experience, even though the product that she developed never sort of got lift off. She doesn't regret it.
Yeah. Awesome. Such great advice in work, business, and life too, because we've all had personal and professional things that have not gone the way that we had wanted. And as soon as we stop judging ourselves about it, and instead we see where we've elevated as a result from it, then to your point, you learn, you grow, it becomes a success story, no matter what other people may have framed it in your own mind and your own life experience. As you say, life's a long time. You got a long lifespan in which to bring that in. So that's such great advice. And what a lucky friend to have you in her, to help with that. So,
well, it goes both ways. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time together, for our conversation, and for generously sharing your insights.
That's my pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. Talk soon.